Wow, y'all, it looks like the drama behind Disney's Snow White remake is way messier than we thought. Word on the street is that Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot were not getting along on set, like full-on tension, major attitude, and even a heated fight that had everyone talking. And when we say they hate each other, we mean it. First, let's talk Rachel. Whew, Rachel Zegler really thought she was about to shut down the haters, but baby, she just threw gasoline on the fire instead.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
In a now viral clip filmed straight from her bedroom, Rachel stared into the camera with a mix of frustration and defiance, basically saying, "Y'all can stay mad, but people still show up for me." Her tone bounced between teary-eyed vulnerability and a little bit of attitude as she tried to defend herself and clap back at the never-ending criticism that's been haunting Snow White since day one. Now she might have thought she was reclaiming her narrative, but the internet said absolutely not. Within minutes, clips of her speech were flying across the timeline, turning X into an absolute circus. Instead of the redemption arc she was hoping for, Rachel ended up handing her critics a gift-wrapped meltdown. And when people started throwing out the numbers, $250 million budget versus $43 million box office, it was a wrap. The hashtag said it all. Hashtag snowflop. What should have been a heartfelt defense ended up coming across as tone-deaf, self-absorbed, and completely disconnected from the reality of the film's reception. And let's be real, a lot of folks saw this coming from a mile away. But if Rachel thought the internet was gonna let her slide, she had another thing coming. The moment she hit post, the floodgates opened. Review bombs, meme threads, old interviews being dragged back up like clockwork. The internet was ready. What was supposed to be a fairy tale comeback turned into a digital witch trial. And in the court of public opinion, Rachel wasn't Snow White. She was the villain. Folks hadn't forgotten how she clowned the original Snow White, calling it weird and creepy, then brushing off the whole Prince storyline as outdated.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
And when the box office numbers hit, oof. A Disney live-action remake flopping this hard, unheard of. Opening at a staggering $45 million compared to The Little Mermaid's $95 million, the industry was shook. Major theater chains started quietly pushing Snow White into smaller screens. Some even cut it from their lineup altogether. And if Disney can't even save it, then you know it's real bad. Then came the Oscars, and the vibes between Gal and Rachel were icy. Rachel and Gal hit the red carpet, but the body language was giving zero warmth. Gal barely looked at Rachel, stood stiff as a board during interviews, and insiders later spilled that she's been distancing herself from the film and its star ever since. And let's be real, while Rachel's career was crumbling, Gal was out here thriving, booking gigs, securing deals, and keeping it pushing. Meanwhile, Rachel was struggling. Her attempt to modernize Snow White backfired spectacularly. What she thought was a feminist retelling, the internet saw as disrespectful. Her confidence was interpreted as arrogance, and all that girl boss energy basically turned into one of Disney's biggest flops ever. And when people started pulling old clips of her dragging the 1937 classic, rolling her eyes at the romance, and saying her version would be nothing like it, whew, the dragging was brutal. Instead of getting praise for a fresh take, she got roasted for missing the point entirely. And at this point, the damage is done. The backlash wasn't just from random trolls. This was Disney's core audience turning against her. The merch-buying, park-attending, opening weekend showing superfans felt personally insulted. Parents straight up said they weren't taking their kids to see a movie where the lead actress had mocked the original. And let's talk about the press tour. Even neutral viewers were side-eyeing Rachel, not just for what she said, but how she said it. The words smug, entitled, and out of touch were all over the comment sections. And when the internet turns on you, you usually see co-stars or industry friends stepping in to show support, right? Crickets. No co-stars tweeting in her defense, no directors hyping her up, nothing. The silence was loud. Hollywood had already started backing away. Then came the real consequences. Whispers started circulating that studios were reconsidering Rachel's future projects. Insiders spilled that she had big roles lined up, but now, those conversations had slowed down. And behind the scenes, marketing teams were nervous. Could she still sell a movie? Would audiences even show up for her? Or was she now too associated with bad press, flopped box office numbers, and an internet dragging? It's a brutal reality, but Hollywood runs on perception, and Rachel, who was once positioned as Gen Z's it girl, was now looking more like a cautionary tale. The rise was fast, but the fall, even faster. Spielberg's praise, the Golden Globe win, all the early hype. It vanished overnight. And the worst part is that this wasn't just about Snow White. Timing is everything. And in this era, audiences are vocal. They don't just complain, they vote with their wallets. Rachel wasn't just facing bad PR, she had become a symbol. To some, she represented everything wrong with how classic films were being butchered. To others, she was the embodiment of celebrity entitlement. Either way, people weren't just skipping Snow White, they were rejecting her. Now her team is in full-on panic mode. Publicists, agents, managers, scrambling to fix it, trying to push redemption interviews and soft PR moments. But the damage might already be done. Viral clips don't disappear and audiences don't forget when they feel burned. Stars have bounced back from worse, but only if they had the humility to apologize or the charm to win people over. And Rachel? She's done neither. She doubled down, lashed out, and stayed defiant. And with every move, her chances of a comeback shrink. Some are already calling it the Hollywood it girl, who was supposed to carry Disney's next big franchise, might have just become one of the most spectacular flops in recent memory. Not because of one bad movie, but because of the choices she made when the spotlight was at its brightest. But truth be told, this was probably more than just a flop from Rachel's side. There's more to it than that. From never-ending delays to behind-the-scenes drama and major backlash, this movie has been through it. And now, with whispers of on-set feuds, it's looking more like a cautionary tale than a fairy tale. The problem started early on, with the production constantly getting pushed back. First, it threw everything off schedule, and just when things started moving again, the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike came in and shut it all down. At this point, Snow White has been sitting on the shelf so long, people are already over it before it even drops. But the delays were just the beginning. The casting choices set the internet on fire, and not in a good way. When Rachel was announced as Snow White, the backlash was immediate. While some of the criticism was rooted in outright racism, others questioned whether she was the right fit for the role. Then there was Gal Gadot, who got dragged for political views, which clashed hard with Rachel's stance. Between the two of them, it was clear the set wasn't exactly the most harmonious place, and we saw it during the Oscars. And then there's the Seven Dwarfs debacle. When leaked photos showed that Disney had hired regular-sized actors instead of little people, the backlash was swift. People called the studio out for erasing roles meant for actors with dwarfism. In response, Disney doubled down and announced they'd be using CGI instead, but that only made things worse. Now, instead of fixing the issue, they'd created another one, and fans were not having it. As if all that wasn't enough, the production was also straight up chaotic. A literal fire broke out on set at Pinewood Studios when a tree caught fire during filming. If that's not a bad omen, I don't know what is. And the drama wasn't just happening behind the cameras. Word on the street is that tensions between Rachel and Gal reached a boiling point when Rachel suddenly backed out of a scheduled appearance on The View. Disney had set it up to make them look like a united front, but Rachel wasn't having it, allegedly because she was worried about her own reputation. That reportedly did not sit well with Gal, who was already fed up with all the drama. Meanwhile, Disney's PR team has been working overtime trying to clean up the mess. While there haven't been any direct reports of the cast being outright annoyed by the backlash, the tension it created was impossible to ignore. Whether or not the rift between Rachel and Gal had anything to do with Rachel's comments about the original Snow White, the drama is definitely there. And then there's Disney, who has been very careful with how they're handling this movie's marketing. While there's no solid proof that they've been downplaying Rachel's role in the trailers, it's clear that they're pushing the modern take and diverse cast more than anything else. Instead of making her the sole focus, they're leaning into the film's updated themes, probably in an attempt to shift the conversation away from all the negativity. It's almost like they're trying to distract the audience from the controversy by making it about the film's broader message. But let's be real, people are still talking about it. Rachel's comments about Snow White being outdated, along with her shade toward the prince, didn't sit well with hardcore Disney fans. Many felt like she was dismissing the legacy of the classic film. And combined with the backlash over her casting, the scrutiny on this movie has been relentless. Despite all of that, Rachel has kept things positive, choosing to see the backlash as proof that people are just passionate about the film. At the end of the day, the drama surrounding Rachel's comments and casting has definitely shaped how this movie is being handled. While there's no obvious evidence of her co-stars distancing themselves, the tension is undeniable. But what did Gal think about this whole ordeal so far? While Snow White has been drowning in controversy, Gal has been keeping things cute and classy, giving us nothing but pure excitement about playing the evil queen. Now, there's no solid proof that she was annoyed by the film's narrative changes or that she saw Rachel's behavior as unprofessional, but let's just say her comments make one thing very clear: she was all about the art and none of the drama. Gal has been gushing about how much fun she had stepping into such a delightful and delicious role, and honestly, it sounds like she was having the time of her life. Singing, dancing, and fully embracing the villainous glamour, a total departure from her usual action-packed roles, and she loved every second of it. If anything, it seems like she was so locked into her own creative process that she didn't have time to be caught up in whatever PR nightmare was happening outside the set. Now, of course, we have heard the whispers about a possible rift between Gal and Rachel, especially with their clashing political views and all the drama surrounding Rachel's comments. But neither of them has come out and confirmed anything shady, so at this point, it's all just speculation. Was the vibe on set a little tense? Probably. But was Gal throwing side eyes and rolling her eyes behind the scenes? If she was, she's kept it very professional. Let's not forget, Gal is a seasoned Hollywood star. She's been in this industry long enough to know how to navigate messy PR storms and still walk away with her reputation intact. Unlike some, she hasn't fumbled the bag by making controversial comments or getting into unnecessary feuds. If she had any issues with Rachel or the backlash surrounding the film, she sure hasn't let it show. At the end of the day, Gal's focus has been on one thing: delivering a killer performance as the evil queen. Whether or not there was any backstage drama, she's keeping her eyes on the prize. And honestly, that might be the smartest move anyone involved in this film has made. When it comes to backlash, Hollywood stars and Disney have faced their fair share, each time handling it in their own way. Rachel's drama with Snow White has sparked a conversation about how Disney responds to controversy. So let's take a look at how other stars have navigated their own moments in the spotlight. Emma Watson, for instance, was hit with criticism over the portrayal of Stockholm Syndrome in Beauty and the Beast. The backlash was immediate, but Emma didn't shy away from addressing it. Instead, she turned it into a teachable moment, emphasizing Belle's independence and the healthy relationship she had with the Beast. Emma used the criticism as an opportunity to highlight the film's positive themes of mutual respect and personal growth. It was a clever way to engage with fans while defending the integrity of the story. Then there's Halle Bailey, who became the target of racist backlash after being cast as Ariel in the live-action The Little Mermaid. Disney stood behind her from day one, emphasizing diversity and inclusion as core values. Halle herself took the high road, focusing on the inspiration she hoped to bring to young girls and stressing the importance of representation. Disney's strong support not only helped quiet the negativity, but also turned the controversy into a statement about the power of diverse casting. Now, Rachel's situation is a bit more complicated. Her criticism of the original Snow White and her outspoken political views have stirred up both positive and negative attention. Unlike Emma and Halle, whose controversies were more singular in focus, Rachel's situation involves a mix of personal and political tensions that have made the backlash more complicated. Disney's response has been more subdued, perhaps because of the broader scope of the controversy. While they've still emphasized the film's modern take, the focus hasn't been solely on Rachel's character. When it comes to Disney's usual approach to handling controversies, they often emphasize the positive aspects of their films, like diversity and empowering storylines. In the past, like with Pirates of the Caribbean, Disney has reduced Johnny Depp's role in promotional materials following his personal controversies. But in Rachel's case, there's no indication they've pulled back on her promotion in the same way. Disney has kept a more low-key stance, likely hoping the movie's overall appeal will overcome the public drama. The question now is, how will all of this affect Snow White's success? We've already seen the box office failure and the record low ratings online. Some fans are excited for the fresh take on the classic, but others are skeptical. And who can blame them with all the noise surrounding Zegler and the production? If the film doesn't perform as expected, Disney may need to rethink its approach to future live-action remakes. There's no talk yet of Snow White going straight to streaming or Disney cutting their losses, but if the film doesn't meet expectations, it could prompt a re-evaluation. As it stands, Snow White faces an uphill battle at the box office, but ultimately it all comes down to how the audience reacts and whether the film's quality shines through the controversy. So, while Disney has dealt with backlash in different ways in the past, the Snow White situation is unique. There's a lot of layers to the drama, and how it all shakes out will depend on how audiences receive the film and the final product. It's a tricky balancing act for Disney, but one they've been through before. Now, it's just a matter of whether they can pull off a happy ending or if this remake will be a cautionary tale for future projects. Did you watch Snow White yet, and do you think Gal and Rachel got some beef going on behind closed curtains? Let us know all about it down below.